Hi everybody, Tom Sparks with Sparks Media Group. In this video, I'm going to show you the process I use to scan a restaurant, in this case an Applebee's, for the purposes of getting a data file out of it to prepare for an upcoming remodel. I was hired by a third-party company to provide the 3D tour of this Applebee's, and I'll cover my process. This is not much different than scanning a house or another business, however we will add a few extra steps, which I'll discuss. So I already have my Matterport Pro 2 set up. And we're going to go in, and the first thing I want to do is make sure that all the doors are open that can be opened. And I brought door stops along to keep them open. There's a locked liquor door to the right, which I'll have opened up later when I get to it. Now, with this particular restaurant, and with any restaurant, I tend to start in the back of the restaurant, in the kitchen area, because we're doing this before the restaurant opens, and although the restaurant's closed, there's still people in the back doing work, preparing for the day. So in order to get the cleanest scan possible without a lot of disruption, we like to start early and in the back of the restaurant. So here we're connecting to the Matterport's Wi-Fi network. I'm going to hit my screen record button. And we're going to launch a new job and label it. And I started, but then I realized that one of the freezer doors wasn't opened. So I'm going to hit the stop button, and we're going to have the manager unlock this so that we can see inside of it. With the Pro 2 and with any camera, but really with the Pro 2, it really depends on line of sight. And so you want to have everything set to be able to see where you're going, because if this door was closed and I got closer to it and then opened it, the Matterport might not align accurately. So when we're doing these scans for data files, you really want to make sure that you have a complete mini map, meaning you don't really want to see any black areas. You want everything to be filled in as much as possible. Now, because we're not doing this for marketing purposes, it doesn't matter if there's people in the shots. So I was okay with her being there because we're just going to blur faces out, and in the data files, we can work around her. Got a low overlap pop-up, which I tend to get from time to time, and it doesn't really affect things too much, so I just continued without it, or continued on as is. It's where they keep the good stuff. Now I'm going to fast forward the video so that you don't have to be bored watching the entire process. But I will say that there's a lot of stainless steel in the kitchen areas, and sometimes the Pro 2 has issues with aligning and things of that nature. So I didn't run into any of those issues on this one, but I have in the past. And a fix for that is to mark all the stainless steel areas as mirrors. Meaning if you're scanning in front of a stove that has a stainless steel backsplash, mark that backsplash as a mirror. And if you do it before you start scanning, because as you come up on it, you'll be able to have some of it in the shot. If you do it if you mark it before you get to that, you'll get less alignment issues. So I'm going to fast forward this, and I'll stop it when I have something else important to say. Okay, so here I ran into an issue where I walked too far away from the Pro 2 and it lost signal. And so I'm simply trying to reconnect. Now, one thing I didn't point out is I fully charged this battery about a day before, or I thought I did. And when I got on site, I realized it only had like 30 something percent, which I was kind of freaking out about. But I was able to complete the whole scan on just that battery. So I'm hoping I don't have a battery issue. I'm going to go ahead and charge it now that I'm back at home and see if it takes a full charge up to 100%. Definitely having some issues connecting. And I think what actually had happened was, for some reason, the Pro 2 turned off. So I turned it back on, and it ended up connecting, and I was able to continue. So we're done with the inside of the restaurant, and now we're going to go outside and do some in an ideal situation, we would do 2 scans, 2 rings around the restaurant. One at about 10 feet from the building and one at about 20 feet. This was a little unique situation and every situation is unique, but this one is unique in that it was getting ready to rain. It kind of was sprinkling off and on. And so I opted to just do 1 scan around, probably at about 10 feet, I'd say, from the building. And when I say 1 scan, I mean 1 ring around the building. So we're going to go to a 360 capture. And after it takes the 360 image, we want to place it on the map in the location that it's in. Now, I usually do this after every scan, but again, this is kind of a unique situation where it was sprinkling and I didn't want to get the camera wet. I didn't want to get wet. And so what I did was I went around the building and did all my 360s, and then I placed them later on. It's important to place them while you're on site because you're there, you're able to look at the property in real time and familiarize yourself with it. If you tried to place these at home or later on, days later, after it's done processing, it might end up becoming a mess. So when I do my ring, I like to do the corners, the 4 corners, and then the flat parts of the buildings. So the sides, basically. So we should have about 8 scans in total. Now, sometimes you'll do a restaurant that is connected to another building or doesn't have a clear path all the way around it. And in those cases, we'll just eliminate those 360s on those sides. And this can apply to restaurants, buildings, anything like that. This restaurant happened to be a standalone building, and there was a clear path all the way around it, so I was able to go and scan the entire ring. So here I'm placing the scan. And we did a few of them, so I'll fast forward this part. But basically you want to place it on the map, arrange it where it goes, and then orientate it to how the restaurant is. Now that we've got our 360s done and we've done the 3D tour, our next step is to take some laser measurements of the restaurant. And we do this so that we can scale the data files accurately and just for overall accuracy. So this laser measure that I have, I can't find it on Amazon, but I'll put a link to a comparable one so that you guys know what's a good one to use. So I take a screenshot of the map, and then I'm going to write on it with my Apple Pen or Apple Pencil. So we're going to take a floor to ceiling measurement from several different areas because there's several different ceiling heights. You don't have to do every single ceiling height, just a good representation of some of the larger areas. This restaurant is a little challenging because there's a lot of windows in it, and so we want to take measurements of the width and the length of a few different areas, but it can get kind of difficult finding good areas to take measurements off of because of all the windows. After I wrote this measurement in, I realized I put it in the wrong place. So I'm simply going to erase it and re-enter it. You could use a piece of paper and do this, kind of do a rough sketch, rough floor plan of the restaurant, but I always find this the best way because you're looking at the actual space and you have a floor plan right in front of you. There's no, I guess, maximum on number of measurements you can get or you should take, but you definitely want to get a few to show the width, a few to show the length, as well as the ceiling heights. All right, so now we have our measurements done. The last step is to take some cell phone photos of the electrical panels. This particular client likes us to get all the electrical panels in the shots. So we're going to do them with the doors closed and then the doors open. And we also want to get the label that's on the electrical panel. This restaurant had several panels, so I made sure to capture all of them. So if the electrical panels are blocked, we want to not touch anything just for liability purposes. So I asked the manager to move everything, and then I realized it was just a couple of plastic high chairs, so it wasn't a huge deal to put them back at the end, but she moved them out of the way for me graciously. All right, guys. Well, that was the process for scanning a restaurant in order to get the data files out of it. We covered the scan, the 360s, taking laser measurements, and taking photos of the electrical panel or the electrical panels. If you have any comments, don't hesitate to leave them below. Give me a like if you feel inclined to do so. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please do so. And if you find this video useful, please feel free to share it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.